I'll first make a few comments, trying to feel my duty as a discussant in this panel for 5 minutes, and then we'll take questions, and then the presenters will provide their responses. First, I would like to say that as this conference mapped out, the first panel is basically dealing with some of the important issues that came out of early 90s in Romania. And then the second panel will basically provide us the comparative and, let's say, facet of our discussion. When I was listening to Tom's paper, one famous title came into my head. This one I wrote, I think, in the New Republic in 1991, I think, an article called New Masks, Old Faces, and I think that to a certain extent that summarizes a lot of what we have been discussing here for the past hour or so. Professor Gallagher basically discussed extensively about the challenge of, or the inability of social aggregation and automatically the connection with the impossibility of social consensus during the early 90s, and I remember Ken Jowett, who is one of the main theoreticians of this concept of legacies of Leninism. He was talking about fragmentations of movements of rage as being one of the main, one of the most important phenomena of expressions of this resilience of communist structures in post-communism. One issue that came into my head was that when you're discussing, when you mentioned toward the end of your paper about this, the creation of revolutionaries out of the blue people who had no legitimacy of having this position, I was thinking that to a certain extent, Romanian democracy post-1989 democracy does not have a founding myth. A myth upon which democracy can be justified as a break from the communist system. We have now the 2006 condemnation of the communist regime, but and a few statements of the Romanian president in reference to this total break from so say post-totalitarian legitimacy of the Romanian democratic state, but we still don't have a founding, or we have not developed. Now to Juana's paper, I really enjoyed the fact that you pointed out the main reasons why minorities matter in post-democratic, in post-communist democracies. I think that one issue that we also have to take into account in reference, particularly in reference to Romania, but not only, I think that features highly in most East Central Europe, is the fact that minorities matter in post-communist democracy because Romania and many of these countries don't have a history of properly integrating national minorities in the civic national body. And I think that besides the real salience in social political development for minorities in Romania and post-communist Romania, also you have the symbolic weight of minorities in general public discourse, and I think that to a certain extent that's why positive discrimination functions starting with 1990 until presently was so important in the social political development of the country, because everything in the 1990s, as you mentioned, Udemere was presented as the proof of a clear and present danger, a Hungarian clear and present danger against Romania. Now it basically became a normal political actor in the power struggle within the state institutions. And to turn to Professor Vlascean's presentation, indeed we were fortunate to have you here because you, besides being an eminent scholar, you were also an eyewitness of the turbulences of the 1990s, and I actually recently I read one of your statements from the Mundiade in 1990 when you were describing what you saw, and indeed those events were totally appalling, and I think to a certain extent a lot of the troubles that followed in our country afterwards are rooted in that. So I think that to a certain extent what you discussed was this impossibility of universities to become an alternative space of civic identity, autonomous from the politics of the present, and the impossibility of them becoming intimate with democratic values. And one question that I had, and I was thinking when we were presenting about the German case, which was the radical case when most of the academics from the Democratic Republic of Germany were purged and replaced with Western German academics. Was it possible, the staff cleansing, in terms of, was this turnover of scholars possible in Romania under circumstances that the academic elite was deeply permeated by party structures and even party ideology, as you presented quite well. So these will be my comments, and then now we'll take questions.
I have two questions. One to Dr. Suciu. I'm sorry for pronouncing improperly your name. When listening to your presentation, I was thinking how important gatherings like this are, because we've been living together for quite some time, probably 6 years at least, 50 years, sorry. And we knew much about Bucharest and Bratislava and Prague, etc. But now we know more about North Korea and Brazil than what's happening in Romania. So that's why gatherings like this are so important. And listening to your presentation of the Hungarian minority, it looked like you were presenting Turkish minority in Bulgaria. It is exactly as close and disciplined as the one here. It is also very not quite interested of what their political elite is doing. But in Bulgarian case, Turkish minority party proved to be one of the most clientelist and corrupted structures. And because I didn't felt you were touching upon this aspect, I was wondering if this is the case also here in Romania as well. Are they buying out economic assets for their political support of different poles of the political spectrum, or it is a little bit different? Because the only difference I can think of is that Hungarian minorities are pro-Western oriented, while the Turkish minority in Bulgaria was to some extent eastward oriented. However, they were strongly supporting EU membership and NATO membership due to all these reasons, because Turkey was also aspiring for EU and Turkey was also a member of NATO. And to Professor Bosciano, I'm sorry again, I was listening for your presentation of what universities are like here in Romania, and I was wondering, comparing with Bulgarian experience, at least there were two strongholds in academia in Bulgaria, which were created and was supported by the so-called opposition, by what we unfortunately means the non-communists in Bulgarian society. Those two universities, the American University in Volgograd and the New Bulgarian University, proved to be the most vital universities to some extent. And I was wondering, because when depicting the situation, the grim situation with Romanian universities, you attributed it to some extent to the fact that it was the former communist nomenclature who actually formed them. Were there cases of non-systematic universities which were created by outside of this frame?
No, we should take another one or two questions and then, if there are any.
Participant in this conference in the next term. First of all, I just wanted to congratulate you for excellent presentations and excellent starting point for our conversation. And second, I'd like to address a question to all of you, and I'm afraid it's not just a question for all of you, but for all of us here. It's quite a challenge looking at the title of the conference, the first years of post-communism. Not the subtitle, just the title. Because we have there a very interesting and important problem implied, which is the problem of periodization. What is meant in these circumstances by the first years of communism? I think that this is an important thing because we are searching for a threshold, searching for something that would be distinguishing the first years from the next years. Are the first years the first couple of years? Are the next years the first years, the first 10 years, 15 years, and so on and so forth? And it looks like that in the domains that we have touched, we might be looking for different criteria, different thresholds. So this is, I think, both from an institutional history point of view, from an intellectual history point of view, from a political history point of view, from a history of the ways in the political system that ethnic minorities were integrated, might be finding that there are different thresholds, different criteria, and so on. So I think that this issue, it's important not only for historical and theoretical reasons, and but also for practical policy reasons, implications for the public discourse. Are you still in the transition period, from the first years or the last years of the transition period? What does it mean for the political discourse, for the public discourse, for our public attitudes, for our expectations, the way we make expectations in the public domain? And again, this is a question or a challenge for you, but I think it's a challenge for all of us. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. I have a question about ethnic minorities, primarily for Professor Suchu, but perhaps for anybody. I think there's a puzzle that should be addressed regarding the political weight of two different ethnic minorities here in Romania. On the one hand, as Professor Suchu described, you have the ethnic Hungarians who vote in a disciplined manner and carry weight